What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Owen Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Owen Jennisons, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we are joined by one person in Discord, so I'll raise the mic on him, and you can enjoy the conversation that hopefully gets started between he and I while I set up for today's live show, if I can.
Good morning.
Howdy.
What's up, Anthony?
Fucking country's in a fucking mess in it at the minute, let's be honest.
So is mine.
Mine's in a bigger mess, I gotta be honest, man. We've got the craziest...
But we're usually the same. I mean, America is England. Whoever doesn't think that's the case is stupid.
Well, we're run, but I don't know what the fuck's going on with our country at the moment, man, but Jesus Christ, he's going to end up getting shot, our Prime Minister, if he carries on.
Oh, God.
What happened? What's the latest juice?
You have to say that at the start of my live stream. Not live stream.
It's just horrendous. The left arm doesn't know what the right arm's doing. What was that, Nathan?
But you have to say that at the start of my recording.
What's that?
People getting shot? Great.
He's going to get fucking shot.
Can you not... Yeah, please, I beg of you.
I don't mean it literally. Just in case the internet police are listening.
They are. Yeah, hello, YouTuber.
Anyway, Nathan, you said in that comments that you wanted to have a chat about that exploring the plane video and the bendiness in the atmosphere looking down, right?
Yeah, basically, I think that's an excellent piece of evidence, and I noticed your comment in there.
Did you understand what I was saying what I was referencing? I said about if you look at the turbines in the background, the ones that are furthest away are squashed and deformed, whereas the ones that are nearest to us are lovely and sharp. And it's because of the angle that you're looking down into the gradient in. And because the angle's getting more horizontal, you're looking through a density gradient that's varying as you're looking through it. Yeah,
you can share this as we're talking about it, just so it makes a bit more visual sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Exploring the plane. Let's get it.
Good morning.
Hey guys. Good morning.
Hey, Flatsoid. Nice response you got.
We'll come to that, lads. Promise. Well, depending on how long Sleeping Warrior takes to bring this video up, but hopefully we will cover both Slice Arcane and this particular thing. I've been waiting for Anthony to come for like 3 days.
Oh, I've been busy, man. It's been a busy period in a period of just pure turmoil. Let's get it on the entire screen, and I'll put it on that one. All right. Do you see my Bobuster screen, or do you see the Hangout?
See a Skype screen.
Right. Let's get that one to there.
Now I see the Hangout. Now I see it. Yeah, if you can make that big, yeah, perfect.
Okay, so what I wanted to point out was these little turbines at the back. Let's just play this so you can see that it's a video and it's not a photograph. This guy's fucking good with his camera, isn't he?
He's very good. He's very effing good.
He's really, really good. He's almost as good as Stephen Cheatley. I'd say better than Stephen Cheatley, to be fair. Now, what I see here is these turbines here, aside from the fact that they don't even look tangible or physical, they look holographic. They look like they're different to these ones because you can see that these are clearly sharp and whatever. These are very fluffy and very soft-edged, and it looks like they're kind of projected. Would anybody disagree that they don't look real? It looks, because of the size of them and the way that it appears, they look like almost holographic. You see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And what it looks like is happening, because these ones are a lot closer to us, and they're like, because of like, he's looking down into a density gradient, but because these ones are a lot closer to the horizon than these ones, these are a lot closer to him. It looks like these are getting squashed because of the angle, in the same way that the building, like, you know, like all the objects seem to squash bottom up. It's because it seems to be because he's looking through the medium, and as it's getting towards the horizontal, it's getting squashed. But these turbines, they say, oh, well, they're behind the curve. Well, if they're behind the curve, then the mountain's got to be behind the curve, right? So they can say, oh, the turbines are behind the curve. Therefore, we can then say, okay, so the mountain's got to be there too. And when you do the maths on it, and you see that only the tippy top only the tippy tops where this like aerial is, the mast, that's Snaefell, only that tippy top should be present if it were a ball. But we got all the other masts that's underneath. And we know that it gets squashed disproportionately, right? It's not linear, the squashing. It gets more compressed as it gets towards the angle. More towards the horizon, the apparent horizon, it gets more squashed. So because it's disproportionately not linear, it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Exponential, I suppose. You're getting this out of scale. It's not a scale thing. You can't put an overlay on it. You can't put the blink test on it because it squashes. It's getting squashed. But what they say is, well, you can see the mast. The rest of the mountain should be down here somewhere. No, because if they're on their model, there's got to be drop. So if they're claiming that these other turbines go behind the drop because of the curve, if they go behind the curve because of the drop that's there, the geometric drop, then the mountain must also do the same. And they completely ignore that mountain because they expand the mountain, they make it look much bigger than it actually is, and claim that it should be down here somewhere. Well, the problem is, look at how much we're seeing. I mean, listen, you can see how much we're seeing of the land as he pans across. This is the highest peak, but we're seeing a massive chunk of all the lower lying land as well, which we shouldn't see. Now, I actually think this is being magnified. This landscape is actually being magnified. The mountain behind is bigger. It appears bigger than what it actually is because of the atmosphere. Because, you know, like when Rob Skiba showed that the atmospheric lensing effect. But we're seeing a huge amount of depth there that we shouldn't see. Now, the question is, well, if it's only supposed to be the mass that we're supposed to see, and we're seeing all of this, sure, you can argue about how much you're actually seeing, but it doesn't change the fact that we're clearly seeing way below a few hundred feet. We're seeing like all the land that's like, maybe it's not down to the beach, but it's not far off the beach. So on the one hand, they're happy to point out the turbines going behind the curve, but then they can't account for the mountain. So it's like, what is the explanation for this? Because it doesn't seem to match the ball at all, but they just ignore the fact that drops there, and they call it flat. They call that flat perception a ball. And it's like, yeah, but you haven't addressed the geometric drop that's supposed to be there. And they start putting lines in and saying where it should be on a ball, because what they're doing is they're making the bottom part much bigger and sticking it down here somewhere. It's nonsense. Nathan, what do you think?
It's excellent, spot on in every respect, apart from you saying what we should see and basing that on a ball. But we're into that, right? That's what we're doing. In case anyone checks me on why I haven't checked Anthony, we have discussed this beforehand, and we're talking about how they justify it on a ball. So we're not begging the question on their behalf. We're saying when this is presented to ballers, obviously they're going to be begging the question, assuming they are, putting it through their maths, and it doesn't work. It leaves them totally screwed. Even when they beg the question, yeah, it's not as powerful as a black swan, but as observations go, you know, that leave them in a bit of a quandary. That's this. Why are you going to explain this? We can't, even if you beg the question. So it's, I think it's an epic, I don't know what to call it really, globe debunking.
See, I mean,
What's a globe?
We don't even have to explain it on a flat plane, because if there's something else going on, we don't have to define exactly what's going on, because we don't make any claims. We don't need to make claims. All we need to say is, hang on, where's the curve? That's what we need to ask. Where's the curve? We don't need to map it. We don't need to calculate it. We don't need to do anything.
Don't need to
We
ask
just
that
need to
anymore
point out
either.
that there's no curve.
We don't need to
How
ask
about
that.
its reality?
And we don't need to ask where's the curve either, because we know where the curve is, and we're told
In the maths.
Hold on, we're told consistently at the moment we don't see the geometric horizon. That's what Earth curve is. We don't see it. Where is it? We don't see it. That's the answer.
And
This isn't
go on.
this isn't complicated. They are trying to reify a model. All they have is a model, and this real picture, this real video, anything real, does not establish their model.
It demolishes the narrative.
No. Their model, for a start, would have Anthony in side profile and aligned to 1 point on this picture. Yeah? 1 point, one target, and they'll pick the target that best represents their model. Well, in this instance, Anthony's saying, well, the bit that best represents their model, if they reified the line just at the point where you can see the tower, I'll draw my mouse along it, the horizon. If they say that this line is a physical geometric sphere edge obstruction formerly known as Earth curve, they're going to pick the turbines that are faded in this tiny little section here, below and behind the nice crisp close ones, that happen to be bigger than mountains. Not that your curve maths can account for that either. These turbines being bigger than mountains. Anyway, we'll brush past that and say that they're going to focus on that. And Anthony's saying, well, the problem is that there's mountains behind. Yeah? Well, those mountains, you've got an exponential curve in your maths that you presuppose with an R value that can't be measured anymore because you haven't got a geometric horizon tangent point. You would assume, based on your maths that are debunked, that it's got an exponential drop beyond these turbines. And that would leave you with no mountain.
I call it reality. It's a reality picture.
Yeah, Earth's
Well,
flat.
there's nothing wrong with saying that your model says this and reality doesn't match your model. So your model is wrong. Quit comparing your model to the nature of Earth. The curve on the sphere it doesn't stop. It keeps going. I mean, everyone knows what a sphere is, and they're saying we live on a sphere. And what this does shows that the mountains 90 miles away, my goodness, how much of it should be covered all the way to the top? Well, guess what? Reality doesn't match your model. We don't live on a sphere.
I mean, this mast on the top here at Snaefell, however tall that mast is, we did look it up at one point. I've forgotten how tall it was. But you can see that looks proportionately stretched anyway. It doesn't look in proportion with what the rest of the picture. It looks too tall. It looks like it has been stretched. But even if it hasn't been stretched, the point remains that they've got, on the one hand, they're quite happy to argue about the turbines on the horizon, which I'm hoping that we'll get to any sec. There we go. Let's get them more into the middle. On the one hand, they're quite happy to point out this little bank of four there and say, where's the rest of the mast? But on the other hand, they completely ignore the mountain's existence in the first place. And he puts it perfectly when he puts this line across here. Their geometric curve that this thing must fall behind is... Where the fuck is it?
I'll just tell you the height of Snaefell. It's 2,034 feet. And then the mast is, I think it's 50 feet, is it?
I thought it was nearer to 80, but whatever. 50, there we go. So basically, the geometry states that everything below the red line should be hidden on a globe. Now, this is their starting position that they don't want to talk. I was trying to have a conversation with what's his name, that where's Wally, and he doesn't acknowledge this bit. He doesn't acknowledge that this is where the mountain should be on the horizon. This bit
stop
should
it.
all be
There we
down
go.
here.
Stop. That's where 10th got the phraseology spot on, so I couldn't critique it. Whereas you're saying where the mountain should be, even though we're in their example, and you're talking about your example with a globe guy, you've got to change that. It can't be where it should be. Where the globe model says it is and where it should be are two very different things.
Where the globe model says it should be, yeah. Where the globe model says it should be, that little tippy top there should be sat on the horizon in their model, but it isn't sat on the horizon. So then the question is, well, why? Well, we don't need to explain why. We just need to point out that it's incorrect.
Well, the comment I gave to Mr. Sensible falls exactly in line with this whole thing.
What was that?
So the comment I left on Mr. Sensible's geometric horizon falls exactly in line with this.
What was that comment? Tell us about the comment.
I stuck it in Master B. You can read it out.
Have a look. Master B. Oh, I'm not in Master B anymore.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Hold on. It's at, did you put it By your slide comment, or
No, it's above.
okay? Oh, okay, I got
You'll
it. Right
see,
here.
you'll see.
Yeah, I got it. Flatzoid, how do I put this in terms even you will understand? Question mark. To have your refracted horizon is a contradiction. You can't have a bent tangent. Now, to have your geometric horizon is also impossible because of refraction. They appeal one another. Or what
Yeah, they
came
appeal
first?
one another.
Okay, they appeal one another. What came first, the refracted horizon or the geometric horizon? Question mark. And yes, a face on the ball has an edge. It's an arbitrary position pointed by you twice in this video. You have to be butthurt about the black swan as it demolishes the claim for both the geometric and refracted horizon. Big shame. Be sensible, like your name suggests, and concede there is no globe.
Yeah.
Well,
I love how when
well, go ahead.
I love how when we point out to them that it doesn't match their model, you're then expected to become an absolute fucking expert when it comes to explaining this for what it really is on a flat plane. When the answer is it doesn't matter what it does or doesn't do on a flat plane. What matters is it's not doing what you're saying it does on your belief structure. Your model is incorrect. It's not matching what we see. But that doesn't mean I have to explain it on mine. All I've got to do is point it out and then rely on that and point out to children that this is what you're told you live on. This is what we actually see. This is a fantastic video.
Yeah, I haven't even seen the whole video, but the comments that you made and the background images definitely destroyed their version. But see, their model doesn't work with the sky vacuum either because of gas law. And their model doesn't work with pseudogravity that's 105 years old and no longer valid. So their model doesn't work with more than one thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, the gas pressure without a container argument is probably the easiest one to argue, but they just don't understand that they can't have it. They seem to think that, well, because we've got gas pressure, there must be an ability to have gas pressure without a container because we've got it. No, you're ignoring the problem that you need the container to have it. You literally ignore it, and it's like trying to get that through to them is like trying to tell them red is blue, because in the red they've got blue is blue in the red, but you're trying to convince them the opposite. It's not about convincing them, but that's how they take it. They think it's up for debate, and it's like, if you can't even understand the fact that this is contradicting your model means that it's wrong, they don't understand that. They think that there's some other explanation, and they're quite happy to just accept that the way the world is their model. They don't see the contradiction. They completely miss it.
You know what? This is akin to someone in a cult who's been raised by their parents who were in the cult, who were raised by their parents who were in the cult, and then they meet you sometime somewhere, and you say, hey, do you know that your belief system doesn't match reality? And they got all these generations of family and beliefs, and they are not going to let go of it because it will destroy everything that they are supposed to be, because they match themselves as human beings to those beliefs. Rather than saying, what is the truth? I'm going to align myself with the truth. They want to align themselves with a lie and defend it because it's more painful to accept the truth.
Do you know what I want to point out as well as a secondary point? I've noticed since lockdown, the last month or so, last 6 weeks or so, the amount of active trolling on my account is like 90% less than what it normally is.
Yeah, same
here.
here.
Like most people,
same here.
There's a massive backing off. It's as if they've got all their assets, instead of putting them in flat Earth. Maybe they're going after people that are denying COVID-19, or maybe they're after denying some other part. But it's as if the trolling is completely stopped. And I'm like, where did everybody go?
To me,
I think 90%.
I'm keeping them busy.
90%, yeah. Completely stopped, no. But I even mentioned it to my wife. It's just the reason I interrupted you or ejaculated was because I said to my wife yesterday, it's almost like I've got more support in the comments recently. There seems to be, predominantly flat Earth comments. And now you've mentioned it, and I'm thinking, no, it's just not flooded with troll comments. That's all. That's the difference. There's probably the same number of flat Earthers commenting. There's just an absence of about, like you say, 90%. There's not it's not completely devoid of globe trolls. But yeah, it's massively down. I totally agree. Don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, look at my last video. I've doubled the amount of comments.
Yeah, they're all butthurt because of a balloon.
Well, I tell you what I've also noticed. I've asked other people, other content creators. I did ask Nathan, but he never gets back to me on Skype because he's the laziest Skype user ever. But I asked other people, did they notice any drop in it? Mitchell from Australia, he's noticed a massive drop in it. What's his name? Taboo Conspiracy 2, massive drop. I asked Arwin, and he says, no, not really. I don't think he's noticed. But most other people are noticing a massive drop in trolling. So it's like, this isn't a coincidence. They're putting their assets elsewhere. All these people that are paid to do what they're doing have gone somewhere else.
Hold on. Let's not have that. You're
No,
speculating.
I'm certain it's the evidence is there, mate.
No, it's not. You want to get into this now, do you? We had a little back and forth on Skype about this, you saying I never use Skype. I do believe the last back and forth we had was precisely about this, was it not?
Yeah, but you never get back to me.
I'll never get back to you, except when I'm pummeling some nonsense that you're asserting about JTRIGs.
Well, I mean, you agree that it's down by 80-90%, right?
Yeah, I can note that. I've got stats. I can prove that, yeah.
Right. So where have all these people gone? They've not suddenly become ball earth proponents. They've not suddenly become flat earthers, have they? They've gone.
They're not commenting. You are of the ilk that thinks if someone doesn't make a video for 2 weeks, they're dead.
No, I'm of the ilk that I'm noticing that like a 80-90% reduction in troll comments.
Yeah, I've agreed with that.
Well, that's not coincidental. There's a reason for that.
It's the aliens.
Oh, I don't know what it is, but I'm not having that there's a 90% reduction on troll comments and there's no cause to it.
Yeah, alien abduction.
My hypothesis in science is
reptilian.
Trying to trigger me now.
Is that my independent variable is paid trolls, and my dependent variable is troll comments on my channel. I see lots of far less troll comments on my channel. Therefore, I'm going to correlate that because it's true.
Yeah, you're going to correlate it with speculation about JTRIGs and government paid shills and people in, I don't know, where was it again? Was it Ukraine? Or was that the one I invented to be farcical?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. I can't remember the location of where you said the JTRIGs were. Then I invented some farcical scenario with some in Ukraine, or it is actually the case that you asserted the JTRIGs are in Ukraine. I can't remember which.
I don't know. All I notice is that there's a lot less. Well, do you know what it was? 10th. You've heard me say in the past about deny, dismiss, and deceive, right? The D's.
Yeah.
So if you go to JTRIG on Wikipedia, where it describes this Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group, JTRIG, they've got this thing that's defined as discredit, disrupt, delay, deny, degrade, and deter. And I'm like, oh my god, that's like they're my D's. There's deceive, deny, dismiss. But they've got like 7 of them. And I'm like, that is exactly what happens. They all deceive, they all deny, they all dismiss. But they've given another 5 there that I didn't know about, and I'm having them. But yeah, this is exactly what
you as a lawyer should have copyrighted it.
I should have done. Deny, deceive, dismiss. That's what they do. But JTRIG have said discredit, disrupt, deny, delay, degrade, deter. That's far better than what I'd worked out.
Well, let them do whatever they want about reality and truth.
Who are they?
Whoever they are.
Who are?
Right, he's talking about JTRIG, that website. So whatever.
All right. So suddenly they've been willed into existence now, have they? Because there's an article on Wiki about them.
Yeah. By their absence, we notice that they do exist.
Oh, right. Correlation at best.
Here,
correlation.
All right.
I'm having it. I'm having it, Nathan.
I
know you're having it.
All the trolls that don't go to Nathan's chat anymore that he referenced as they, the trolls, those they.
Oh, contraire. No. That's might be the case in terms of...
What did you tell your wife about your chat comments being less of?
Comments, but not people coming. Statistically, I'm doing fantastically. I was going to notice.
No, I didn't say that. Though. I didn't say coming. I said comments of the trolls.
Yeah, comments. But comments. I mean,
yeah,
comments.
The comments have decreased. Have they not on your channel, like Anthony's?
No. Troll comments have gone down.
That's the subject matter. Troll comments. Of course, I'm talking about troll comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The amount of troll comments.
So what is it possible to refer to those comments being those troll comments that are decreases they or not?
It is
yeah,
they.
okay.
It is they.
Yeah, fine. Okay, I take it back. I concede.
We're all right correlating if they can correlate, so we're correlating on this
That's
one.
not what I conceded. I conceded that there is a they contextually in this discussion, not that suddenly they've been willed into existence or exist at all. No. There's a they that we're talking about. It's that they that may or may not exist.
And let me just push the bar out a little bit further as well. You know, like when they say, like, don't worry about COVID-19 scenarios, right? It's what else is going on in the background that they're really doing that you want to be worried about. So it's like, look over here, there's a cold, right? But don't look over here because we're doing hokey pokies. What if the hokey pokies that's going on in the background is flat Earth itself? Maybe it's the case that they wanted the distraction away from, because we're all doing pretty well at the minute. Let's be honest, it's a good day to be on our side. So they've created something else, and it's like, yeah, we need flat Earth to go away for a bit. Let's create something big. There you go. We got a pandemic now. Flat Earth. Oh yeah, that's over with now.
Has anybody ever described you as a fantasist, Anthony?
I'm just looking at the patterns at the minute. It's like, it's stark to me that there's like...
Excellent segue. Talking of patterns, I'm massively up on my stats because I've done a lot more work. So I'll stick them up on screen. So I've never quite reached that 10,000 real-time views, but I'm very, very close. What is it? I can't see at this distance, but it's about 9,000 something or other for the last 48-hour period. But I got a little message with a little hot air balloon from YouTube saying, well, hey, you're 60-something% up on your views. And it gives me all the stats and lays out what I've done, and it's down to me making more videos, basically. It says that too. But nevertheless, I just wanted to thank everyone. There's obviously people watching, more people watching for longer, and I'm very, very grateful to all the people who are. I don't get a massive amount of publicity outside of the people who are dedicated and watch anyway. So it's down to them. So if you're a subscriber, it's down to you. So thank you very much for all the views. And in terms of subscribers, I've never had more subscribers in my entire YouTube career.
There's another interpretation here, Nathan. All the people that were coming to your channel to write comments, like that would only have the video open for less than a minute whilst they call you a moron and then they shut the video, they're now being removed from your stats because they don't seem to be here anymore, which is having a relative effect that those that actually watch your video are bringing up your averages.
That would affect my view time. Yeah, the overall view time is up also. So that's watch time minutes in YouTube stat vernacular. So my watch time minutes are up, which does mean exactly that. I can't not draw that correlation. In other words, there's less people coming on, watching, commenting, disappearing 25 seconds later. That means that the overall watch time increases, which is what I've experienced, along with an increase in views, because I've capitalised on that. Because I watch my stats daily and I react to what's going on. I'm like, uptake, well, I'll capitalise on that. Now it's worth doing a lot of work. Let's put out some extra videos, etc., etc. And I have, and it's worked. People have been paying more interest. Irony of irony. One of the first things I checked this morning, I checked my comments, and someone listed, like, here's the numbers for Nathan's last videos. Definitely losing views, definitely going down the toilet. I looked at that and just laughed. I'm like, I'm going to be talking about my stats this morning, about how well I'm doing. Yet the people in the comments think I'm doing badly. It's just really weird.
Let me just point out one other fact as well.
To be honest...
Just one sec, let me have this. Just let me finish this before we carry on, because I want to close on this one. Do you remember all the 200 subs that ran? The trolls were giving me shit for saying that I bought subs. Well, I went onto a chat show there called Alex Belfield. He's like an ex-BBC correspondent that's bitter with the BBC for some reason, and he's got it in his. He's in his cross. They're in his crosshairs, and he had 5,500 live listeners the other night. And I joined I just rang the number on screen to see if I could get through, and it rang. He answered, and I ended up being live on my phone, but he was on Skype and whatnot. And I ended up talking to them about what happened in London with the protesters and stuff. And I ended up getting 690 extra subs in 24 hours. 690! I was like, wow! It's crazy.
Did you introduce yourself as I'm Sleeping Warrior YouTuber channel Sleeping Warrior?
I did, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, well done. Kudos.
Yeah. I sent you the link. You obviously didn't see it on Skype.
I see everything. I am basically omnipresent.
Omnipotent.
Omnipresent.
Well, let's get omnidirectional. Let's have Flatzoid talk about the balloon.
Pick up?
Yes, Flatzoid, go ahead. Sorry, Neil. Oh,
Flatzoid,
maybe not.
Talk about your balloon.
I think he interjects a lot because he's in between doing stuff. And he knows that if he doesn't interject at that point, he's just going to be, he's not going to be able to talk for a few minutes. That's, but there we go.
All right, Neil, you're back on.
You guys want some subs? The new thing now is start a channel about stimulus checks. You'll have 260,000 subs in less than a month.
Start a channel about what?
Government-funded stimulus checks. So everybody wants to know how to get
Stimulus
money.
checks.
I don't.
It's
I don't care
insane.
about that.
It's awesome.
Sorry, I thought it might be actually something useful for me to know. Okay, yes, very interesting.
Nathan, I don't understand what you meant either. It's two of us.
I don't understand or care. As soon as you said
Oh
the
my
word
gosh,
government.
that was so simple to get.
God, you guys are in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what a stimulus check is, but
You don't understand.
yeah, I know what a stimulus check is, but it doesn't interest me. Just does not interest me, even if it was relevant to my country. That said, as we're in the pre-show, I will actually mention this. My heart broke today. I died a little bit inside as I was not forced, but put in a position where either you put on a mask for this class or you don't do the class. So after a long discussion with my wife, with me saying, well, the class involves our children, it's actually only one of them, but our youngest child, looking at my facial expression while she climbs on things and sings. And I sing to her and talk to her. Now, if I've got a face mask on, there's no point doing it. Now, based on the compromise that me and my wife worked out, I'll compromise and wear a clear mask, like some people do, like a face shield rather than a mask. In other words, she can still see me. And that's my compromise. But in the meantime, because I've ordered one, or my wife has on eBay, while I'm waiting for that to arrive, I had to go in and wear a mask. And almost instantly, the moment I put it on, one of the other parents' children came up to me, looked at me, and I don't know the child. It's not, I'm not friends with this parent, but I know the child from this class. And he came up to me and didn't understand anything I said because he couldn't bloody hear me, and he couldn't understand a single expression on my face because he couldn't see it. And I tell you what, I died inside.
That's why I hate the damn mask. Can't understand anything.
Well, I don't go into Trader Joe's or Sprouts to shop because they're like Nazis about masks.
Oh, yeah, Trader Joe's, they want to assassinate you if you don't have a mask on.
Oh, they have two people outside. I mean, they are like Gestapo. It's like, are you kidding me? All you do is sell food here, and now you're acting like government soldiers.
I get a quick mic check.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul.
Good morning.
Good morning. Next time Flatsoid pipes up, if we can just break air for him so he can actually say his piece while he's got a gap.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. Too late.
Fair enough.
Oh, you don't want to talk about your balloon?
No. If you go through his video, you'll see how dishonest he is. So,
Well, give us a summary of what he said to you when you actually showed
I
your
am
balloon.
anyway, I was expecting this.
Well, I haven't seen this video, but I'll summarize from what I think happened. Flatsoid did a video showing a balloon being held up by Play-Doh on a string, stationary inside his house, in front of a window, with windows and doors closed so they wouldn't move too much. And the sun moved, and not the balloon in the house. So then he gets accused of having that balloon tied down to the floor of the house when he showed it wasn't in the video. That's how desperate the Globers are.
I was hoping, or I asked Flatsoid yesterday if he could tie him down to an actual claim. The balloon is tied down, therefore not drifting as it should drift at 15 degrees an hour.
That's where I'm getting to.
Oh, okay. Did you get that?
Yeah, that's where I'm getting it to, yeah.
Getting it to,
Because
okay.
apparently it can go one or two ways. Earth is a closed system, and that's why you don't see it. So conservation of momentum that they play. Or the second one, you should see it drifting. It isn't drifting because it's stuck. So Earth is not drifting. So it doesn't matter how they play it. Earth isn't drifting.
Indeed. They're going to die by one of these poisons. Either, well, it's not drifting. There isn't two reference frames. Well, that's the claim that you utilise to prove it's spinning. Drift, 15 degrees of it. So no drift, just a presupposition that you're going to use. Just a begging the question fallacy you'll assert. Just your assumption that it spins, and we see no effect of that. Well, that's not going to fly. That's not a proof of Earth spin. That's not demonstratable. That's not a 15-degree drift. So death by lack of drift. Or you can say, yeah, it does drift. Yeah, Earth turns underneath bullets. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, football gets kicked, Earth turns underneath. That's why it went through the goal. Okay, so Earth turns underneath things that aren't attached, like footballs and bullets and planes and drones and hot air balloons, and we see them drifting, do we? Because we're turning underneath them, like we're claimed to be turning underneath that bullet and ball. So we're turning underneath them and they're seeming to drift, the hot air balloon. No, we're not seeing that, but that's what they say. And if that was actually occurring, then a different country would come to the balloon as it just hovered in the air, and your drone would drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. So the fact that we don't observe this effect that's supposed to be there, 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath second non-inertial spinning reference frame, coriolis effect, they claim we've got it on a spinning Earth. A real effect that should be observable and isn't. So you either die by claiming there's a 15 degrees an hour and us just pointing out that that would shorten flight times. We're turning underneath aeroplanes to see them seem to drift. Then we're turning underneath aeroplanes and that brings the continent they're travelling to them if they're travelling west. That doesn't happen, therefore there is no drift. Or you say, well, we wouldn't expect to see drift. Well, you're claiming there's 15-degree drift to prove we're spinning. That effect is what is your proof. And you're saying there isn't one. Okay, what you got now? Well, it's just spinning anyway and everything's spinning with it. Well, no, we've got multiple directions of surface wind, so that's absurd. And it doesn't give you 15 degrees drift, which is what you're supposed to have to prove it spins. So you're still claiming no drift, like Simon Dan the Clown. Well, that's not going to be a drift claim then. That's not a Coriolis assertion. That's not Earth turning underneath. That's not a 15-degree deviation. That's not gyroscopes and pendulums. That's not your claim of drift. No drift isn't a proof of Earth spinning. That's a proof of nothing. So no effect. Well, right, what's that useful for? Nothing. Yeah, that's right. Debunking the Earth spinning claim. That's all it does.
You ever heard the expression, dumb as a box of rocks?
Hey, don't knock my cousin.
You guys have heard of that?
Don't knock my cousin.
So that could explain some of the logic. Somebody created this meme of Michelle Thaler. So I don't know if you guys can see it. So that's probably explains a lot of things. They're dumb as a box of rocks.
I actually think of myself as a very complicated rock, Dr. Michelle Thaler. Yeah. We think of you that way too.
Well, she also thinks she evolved from hydrogen.
We've got a whole narrative about the birth of our materials coming from supernovas in a galaxy far away.
So all you need is hydrogen and a lot of pressure, and here we are.
Yeah.
Rock solid.
That whole narrative isn't even that old. Less than 100 years old, you know, that beginning, the start, the origin of their story is less than 100 years old.
She's busted anyway. Oh, God.
Damn the maitre.
Yeah, the maitre. That's right, he said that.
I did.
Right on. I don't know the date. Do you know the date? I can never remember. It's something like 80 years ago. I remember thinking, wow, so within my very, very, very Christian grandmother's lifetime, they created their origin story within her lifetime. Wow.
Where'd you get the hydrogen
Why'd they let
from?
him get away with it?
Yeah, get your own dirt, right, 10th?
Yeah, get your own hydrogen.
Get your own dirt.
Why'd they let him get away with it?
Let who get away with what now?
Creating a story 80 years ago? Where was science? Why did they let him get away with this nonsense?
It's worse, doesn't it? They just invent a story, then radically change it and take it into a conceptual medium. You know, 105 years ago, they did that with gravity.
They look up in the sky, they see these blobs that they call nebula, and they call that a gas, and they say, in these gases, stellar nurseries form and create stars that create planets. That's what they say.
Yeah, that's their origin
But that's
story.
a violation.
Part of the Big Bang narrative.
It's pretty simple. Historically, this has happened before. The Greeks, all their gods were like men and, Apollos and so forth. They had man-like features. And of course, science saying we came from nothing, so there's no creator, no God. They have to now say something like the Greeks, like what is their God? Well, their God is chance. Their God is rocks. Their God is nature. And so, of course, it was going to move this way, because rather than science being based on the scientific method and things you can prove and so on and so forth, they have to say, well, there's no God, so we got to come up with a story.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Chocolate Saiyan, Flatzoid, Neil, Paul, Righteous Force, Sleeping Warrior, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Hello, hello.
Yo, yo, yo.
Good morning.
Yo, yo.
Here you go.
Morning. Yo.
I just want to give a special shout out to all the trolls that are not polluting mine and Nathan's channel right now. It's like 90% of them missing. I wonder where they've all gone. Shout out to those trolls.
Shout out retracted.
Yeah, well done.
Shout out retracted. As an enthusiastic start, far better than the 0 replies I got yesterday. So, excellent. Thank you for a good start today. Hello, everyone in Discord.
Good morning.
Thank you,
Hey.
Zelty. Thank you very much for saying hello. Let's see how we get on with housekeeping. Hopefully we'll get some response to our Discord. Everyone is off mute. Any evidence of a physical geometric... I'll try. Too keen. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not
No
today.
evidence.
Physical, you say?
Not yesterday.
Hold up. It can't be physical if it only exists in the math. Can't be
Yeah, it's
physical.
only in the maths.
Nah.
Nathan,
Unless math actually
Nathan, what-
refracts, like Rumpus told us one day. It was refracting in the math.
Nathan,
Go on,
They could owe
Flatzoid.
it to you.
Hold on.
Nathan,
Go on, Flatzoid.
what comes first? What comes first, the geometric horizon or the refracted horizon? Can't have both.
The geometric, you've got to be able to measure a tangent point, and they can't. Got bent lines to their horizon, so no tangent, no straight line. Did you hear the latest one that they tried to obfuscate this with? Was everyone aware of Rumpus's latest trick in this regard? Because if not, I'm going to break it down.
Two balls.
2 balls, yeah. So they have 2 circles. And they say, look, at the tangent point, you can have a second circle, which is a curved line, meeting the first circle. So you can have 2 curves meeting at a tangent point. Now, the tangent point is just the point that a straight line's going to be joining it. That's why it's going to be called tangent point, because it's a point that a straight line meets it. Now, they're using this example of two circles intersecting with tangents as a get-out for their bent line to their tangent point horizon they don't have anymore. Because it's refracted, right? Refracted with R. Well, R is the basis of their geometry, and that needs a tangent point. It needs a straight line, and they've relinquished it, leaving the model in a paradox. Hey, Arwin, by the way.
Hello.
So yeah, if you ever try and get caught out, just remember, if they introduced a second circle, like, okay, well, that's fascinating. But you've got one claim to be sphere Earth, presupposed, with a tangent point, so you can presuppose a straight line to the horizon with a curve beneath it. So your line of sight's going to be straight, so you can call it a tangent. What's that? Oh, it's bent! Oh, it's not a tangent then. What are you talking about? Geometry. Bent line? Well, no. You've got geometry. So you're assuming the curve beneath the tangent. Well, if you haven't got a tangent, how are you going to assume the curve beneath it? You can't. Dead globe. Black Swan wins again. Unlucky fundies. Your two circles meeting together have still got tangent line to them. It's not bent. Like your donkey dick to the horizon. Unlucky. Better luck next time. Any more on
Where are they going to go from there?
Nowhere. Model's dead. Earth is flat, Neil. Nowhere to go. Every avenue leads to death if you try and challenge the Black Swan. The globe model dies down every avenue.
Hey, I noticed in something yesterday. I was talking to Tenth about this yesterday. Didn't Andrew Thomas Young say there was a maximum that refraction would occur?
Who cares? He's begging the question. In his explanation, he starts off by describing the horizon that's geometric as having a line of sight to it. Later to describe not being able to see it. So he contradicts himself in his first sentence, saying you've got line of sight to something you cannot see, and you cannot have a line of sight to something that cannot be seen.
No, I get that, but even him, if they start arguing that, but even Andrew Thomas Young said there's a maximum that if you refract the horizon, it would only take it at like 0.10 of a mile.
Yeah, when he assumes R, giving him a tangent point to a line of sight he cannot see. So all of that assumption with his maximums are based on a measurement he can't get.
Right, but again, as a summary of yesterday, when I put up the two slides from Andrew Thomas Young, one was dealing with 1.22, which is the geometric horizon that they don't have, because it's all a model, it's all a Jedi mind trick. And the second was on that same model, on that same Jedi mind trick, with refraction, it was 1.32. So if you go back to the Black Swan modus tollens, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles p, then every geometric horizon distance measurement must be no more than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, q, geometric horizon. Okay, so now that easily could be changed to the second one. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles p, then every refracted geometric horizon must be no more than 1.32 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, q, the refracted geometric horizon.
You can't have a refracted geometric horizon. It's a contradiction in terms.
Well, if he's got the 1.22 and the geometric horizon is not possible, then why are we using it?
We're not. That was QE's argument with you. Why are you even asserting it? If you've got a
No,
refracted...
I'm saying, well, hear me out. If you got the 1.225 from Andrew Thomas Young for the modus tollens, why can't we just transfer it to the 1.32 and kill that one too?
Because you can't get the 1.3. Because you can't get the 1.32 without the 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet to give you a geometric horizon to base the 1.32 on. So you can't get to that.
That's my point. But we're using it based on what you just said.
You are.
No.
Yeah.
Who's using?
No.
They are.
Hang on.
They are.
Confused.
The tent's very triggered. They are.
Yeah, that's what
intent
Jimmy
man
was
is.
saying.
May I finish?
Well, no, because
you're allowing them to reverse the burden of proof.
May I finish? You came on just now, Nathan, and said the line of sight you can't see, quoting Andrew Thomas Young. Well, why don't we just use that statement from him and not have a modus tollens?
Well, it's part of the modus tollens because their rebuttal is to say that they've got a refracted horizon. And in response to the rebuttal, which you're asserting for them, you say, no, you can't have an R-based refraction if you can't get R.
No, what I'm trying to say is that when I posted the 1.225, I also posted the 1.32, and I got hell for it. For what reason?
Because you can't have it. Because why would you assert it when you've already debunked the basis of it? At 10th, you're very triggered when I'm 10th, please. Because you can't get to that as a fundy, Globehead. Well, why are you giving it to them? Why are you getting there for them? Why are you saying, well, let's assume we can still get the geometric tangent point to give us R, to move the horizon with an R-based refraction value? Why would you give them that? When, no, they can't.
I'm not.
10th, please. They can't get there, and you're taking them there with an R value they haven't got.
They can't get there with the 1.22, and you're giving them that.
No, I'm not. We're debunking it.
In the We're
debunking R. Their assumption is R. We pointed out that it was a begging the question fallacy. Then we've debunked it with modus tollens. And you're saying, well, let's give them R back again so we can debunk the next bit with the assumption of R that we've just debunked with modus tollens. And your response to that is, well, why have modus tollens? Why not just point out they've got a line of sight to something they cannot see? Well, they've only got that rebuttal because of the black swan. You can't change time. That's how things have progressed.
That's
Exactly.
not what I'm saying.
Black swan is the rebuttal.
Why do you think that what I said is not a rebuttal? I'm quoting the same
Terrestrial
guy.
refraction, sorry.
Can we move on? We did this for 20 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
It got
It's
QE
your show.
very
We'll
angry.
move on. You don't want to discuss it.
It's not that I don't want to discuss it. You're giving them an R
Yeah.
for a refracted...
I'm not giving him anything.
Yeah, you are.
I start off by saying the whole thing is a model. It's pseudo. It's fake. It doesn't exist. It's not reality. What did I give them when I start off that way?
When you give them 1.3, whatever, you're giving them the R value that's been debunked with modus tollens to then say, well, I'm going to give it them back so I can then debunk their refracted assertion. Well, the refracted assertion's debunked because it hasn't got an R value. And you're constantly interrupting me. What's going on? Jesus wept. Can I just reply?
You're misquoting me.
You're giving them R when you give them the refracted value at 1.3. And they haven't got it to utilise it, and you're employing it to say, I can debunk it. Well, you can't employ it to debunk it if you can't employ the R either.
So when QE says, even with giving them gravity at 200%, what's he doing?
Not the same argument.
Excuse me, I was talking to Nathan.
That's not this argument.
What's he doing?
So what? That's not this argument. Take it up with him.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm doing the same thing. They have two numbers. They have the 1.22 without atmosphere, which is bogus, and they have the 1.32, which is bogus with atmosphere. They're both bogus. None of it is real.
Yeah, and in the same respect, okay, if you want to use that example, I'll use it too. I had the same exact thing from Sleeping Warrior, who coincidentally is on the panel. Why are you giving them bloody gravity? I'm fighting it. And we're like, yeah, but it's not really key to my argument. And he's like, yeah, but it's key to mine. Stop giving it them. And we're like, yeah, but it doesn't affect whether or not you can have gas pressure without a container. It doesn't matter. It's not flying in the face of entropy. Sleeping Warrior got pissed. And was like, no, I'm fighting gravity and you're just saying they can have it. Stop it. And both Q and I had to eat humble pie. Q, E, and I had to eat humble pie. It's a bit of a mouthful. And say, okay, you're right. No, okay, fine, we'll stop giving it them when it's not necessary to give it them. It's not key to our argument, so we don't need to give it them as a quick response to, well, you can have gravity, it doesn't make any difference to my argument, because that does affect his argument. And if our argument is you haven't got R, we've debunked it, you've got to have a tangent point to get it, you giving it them back to say, well, let's use R in a refracted value when they move the horizon with R to a slightly further position. It's like, no. The whole point of this process was to debunk R. So you can't just give it back to move the horizon a bit to debunk that.
That's where my...
The only way to actually give them terrestrial refraction is by giving them R.
Owen, everyone's blood's getting a little bit more elevated and you're not helping. I don't want 10th man to start getting pissy. I'm already pissy. Just let him have his piece.
I didn't give him R. I am debunking both pseudo claims, period, by stating at the beginning, none of it is true. It's a model. I'm discussing a model and model claims. I'm not giving them nothing.
Okay, another comparison would be to say, I'm not giving them the geometric sphere, edge, horizon, and earth curve maths. I make sure I make points to say that it's a reification model. Now, if the earth was a sphere, then the geometric calculator says the horizon will be at this point blocking boats and buildings. Therefore, we should see this amount of the building. Well, at that point, I take issue. It's like, no, what we should see isn't based on the reification, regardless of how much you point it out. And what we should see in this instance with the Black Swan isn't ever going to be utilisable, if that's a word, with R, because it was debunked in the modus tollens. You're giving it them back. I know you don't want to accept this, but you are.
I don't accept it because I'm not giving anything back. I am destroying both claims by addressing both claims as pseudo. If you can use his quote for 1.22 miles, I could use his quote for 1.32 and say they're both wrong. That's all I'm saying. I take offense when you say I am saying or I'm giving back when I'm not, because when I debate people right from the beginning, I tell them it's not there, it's not real, it's a model. Now let's go break the model.
Okay, 5 times is enough. We're not going to agree on this. I know we're not, but fine. I concede. That's the way you're going to debate it, whether I like it or not. I've had to concede the same thing, and it happens daily with flat earthers saying what we should see is X. So, whoa. Your eyeballs tell you what you should see, and it's based on what you've seen, not what a model tells you might predictably see based on reifications and assumptions of R. So I don't accept this phraseology, but I've had to tolerate it. And in this instance, I don't want to, but you're not going to accept that. I'm not going to accept that you should be doing it. I'm always going to see it as you giving them back something that's been previously debunked. But, fair enough. You're saying, I want to cover every base. They're going to beg it, so I'm going to beg it for them.
See, this is where the offense comes, Nathan. When you say I give it back to them, when that is what the offense made. I don't give it back to them. I have to have a conversation with a normie, and a normie, or even a slight troll, let's put it that way, who brings up refraction. I could destroy all the layers of the onions. I'm not begging the question or giving it back to them. I'm destroying that rebuttal with it, just like the modus tollens does.
Okay.
Sorry, Ken, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
You can, go ahead. Then I'll shout out a couple of super chats. Go ahead.
Then do you understand why I said the geometric appeals against the refraction horizon? Because they feel one another. You can't have them both. So by saying
you think I don't know that?
I know, but I'm saying what do you think is a stronger argument? By telling them you don't have them both, or you can't have any of them because they appeal each other.
Okay, let me tell you how it goes real quick, because you guys are dense. Hey, you can't have a refracted horizon without a geometric horizon. You don't have a geometric horizon, so there's no refracted horizon. Ball game over, Black Swan.
Cool.
Okay, but what if it's the atmosphere effects? I go, okay, what if it does? What is it? 1.32. Okay, the horizon's over 10 miles, so you still don't have it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, now
but you just clarified with that comment.
Okay, so now you've clarified it, 10th. When they say, what about the atmospheric effect? That's a bait and switch, because their atmospheric effect isn't atmospheric effects. It's 7/6 of a radius value that's already been previously debunked with modus tollens. That's what they're going to be applying, 7/6R. So when they say, what about if we consider atmosphere? No, they're not going to be, though. They're not going to be considering atmosphere. They're going to be considering R. Just debunked, like, literally a second ago. So you just have to stop them there and say, no, your atmospheric effect isn't an atmospheric effect. It's 7/6 of a radius.
Right, 7/6R terrestrial, because you have to have the R to get the 7/6R. And then even with your stupid made-up atmosphere, it's still 1.32. The horizon's over 10.
No, it isn't, though.
Mike.
No, it isn't, because that assertion requires the radius to give the assertion you've just given. Let's stop. I don't want to do it for 6 more times. Right, good servant. Yeah. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Also, someone else super chatted in between, and believe it or not, I was so intent in this conversation that I missed it like I would if a glober was on. But that's just a testament to how good 10th man's prowess in arguing is. Let's give Nick L's IQ moment of silence. Let's give Nick L's IQ a moment of silence, and then peace sign and ponderance face. Okay, thank you very much. Unbelievable predictions. Yeah, indeed. And there's your moment.
Right.
Hope it was worth $2.
So can I give a comment?
Of course you can, Aaron. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Right. About the terrestrial refraction, at this point, because it is a paradox in how it's supposed to prove R, the only way to basically help out a baller to reify it into reality, even just for the moment, is by giving it to them. You understand? So you should never give them terrestrial refraction ever as a vantage point ever, because that's the only way they can even reify it, because it's a paradox. So there's no reason to ever give it. It's only there to try to give a response to the black swan anyway.
That's why I don't give it to them. That's why I address it and don't give it to them the way I address it. My goodness.
Okay.
Oh, was I implying that?
Yeah, you were absolutely implying that, but you didn't directly say it was about 10th man. He took the implication to heart.
I know. He's been taking that for 20 minutes.
Look,
all
fair
kinds
enough,
of things
right?
people say for some reason today. I don't know.
Well, listen, you guys go do it your way. I'll do it my way. Let's move on.
Exactly.
No, I was just saying that you seem to take this all very personal, even though it might not have been meant
personal.
like that.
It's his.
No, I didn't take it personal.
It's
a some people are just not getting what I'm trying to say, and then saying what I'm saying when I'm not saying it. So it's like, don't misrepresent me. Don't misquote me. Just do it your way. I'll do it my way. Let's move on.
Okay, fine. I'm happy
Some
to move
people.
on.
Is that Nathan, you mean?
Some people.
Well, when QE comes on, when QE came on yesterday, grumpy like normal, and F's me live on the show, what do you want me to do? Sit there? You think he's a master stag coming to his herd? You know, a bunch of stags here. We're all alphas. Give me a break.
I quite like that.
I beg to differ that. But...
Yeah. I'll picture him that way.
You're taking it way too personal, 10th.
No, he's not gonna come in here, tell me to shut up, and tell me I can't do what I'm doing because he's.
Yeah, he will. It's QE. He does that to me. He does that to me.
You're taking it way
he does
too
that
personal.
to everyone. Again, you're taking this very personal.
No, I'm a stag.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm a stag too, and I just
everyone.
Arwen, I'm locking horns with another stag. That's not personal. I'm in a fight.
Oh, that is personal. That is per definition personal. When stags lock horns, that is personal. Very, very much. It's very funny that you would use that as a
self-defense. So self-defense is personal. I agree. Self-defense is personal. I agree.
Yeah, we can all take it up our own ways. Everybody's got their own opinions. Everybody's got their own way of debating.
No, you can't. You'll do it my way. Moving on.
Yeah.
Any evidence?
Well, when something's debunked and you bring it back, it is personal.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Neil.
God,
I don't want to start this again.
Yeah, we nearly moved past that then.
Well, don't accuse me of something.
Well, don't feel accused because we're not accusing.
Don't tell him how to feel.
Stop asserting that people are constantly talking about you. Maybe they're not anymore.
Yeah, but we are.
Oh.
We are specifically talking about him. It is specifically personal. Why are you all telling him not to take it personally when we're personally attacking his personal style by name? What's wrong with you people? We are directly attacking 10th Man, right? And he's defending himself, which he's got an absolute right to do. He's done it really eloquently.
It's a matter of perspective.
Oh, boy.
We're going to have to agree to disagree.
Exactly. Chocolate isn't.
Let's hear Chocolate's take on it. Everyone else should.
You never attack anybody.
Hold on. Let's hear Chocolate's take. Did Chocolate pipe up?
No, I just say I'm not attacking anybody. I understand what 10th Man is saying, but I understand what everybody's saying here. But I just don't understand why it's gotten to this point.
Stop attacking me, Chocolate. Stop attacking me.
Yeah.
Can we not? There's no need for this, right? No. Why are we demeaning what's going on? Right? He's got a difference in opinion. That doesn't mean we have to suddenly demean him or talk about him in the third person. It's outrageous. Like he's not even here. Sorry.
All right.
The revenge always punning around all the time.
We have
man can handle it.
We had our fun. Let's
You're
move
damn
on.
rock.
Oh, did
We're
I
all
just hear a car
hard-headed,
squeal?
Damn rocks.
Was that a sound of tyres screeching? Did someone just crash into the paint booth?
No, that's a paint booth starting up.
Oh, I thought it was just someone crashing. Shout out to Alexander for the super chat. He sent me a unicorn. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, are we done berating 10th Man for his differing style of debate? Notice how I just cast all blame onto everyone else with that statement.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's going to be terrible anyway.
Can I make an analogy? Can I make an analogy, though?
I'm going to be terrible anyway.
Can I make a quick analogy? Like what I'm hearing, right, is the way 10th Man is going about with the refracted horizon. It kind of sounds to me almost as the same thing as when QE says, look, I'll give you guys all the Newtonian gravity you want, all the Einsteinian gravity you want, and you still won't be able to affect entropy. It almost sounds like the same thing.
That's a different
argument. Come on, Neil. That's exactly what I'm doing, Chocolate. Thank you.
I know.
No.
Like they don't have it. They don't have it. But
I was just gonna.
It's like even if I gave you that, well, you still don't have it. Well, that's what 10th Man's doing.
Hold on. Hold on. Chocolate saying, oh God, hold on. Chocolate saying, if I give you all of the 7/6 that I just debunked, no, it's not like with gravity. It's got literally nothing to do with the argument when it comes to entropy. So you go, I have it. It's got sod all to do with the argument. In this instance, I'll give you the R I've just debunked. So you can say I've got this much of it in my refraction to move the horizon. It's just been debunked because you've disclaimed you don't have a tangent point. So I'll give you back your R and your tangent point that you haven't got, so you can assert 7/6 of it, and then I'll debunk that. That's not comparable to giving something that's totally red herring, nothing to do with the argument, in my opinion.
Unless I do it the way I do it, and the way I do it is I bring up
chocolate. That's what I think. Chocolate. You may differ in your opinion.
No, all right, that's fine. I see the difference you're going at. In one instance, you're going as far as the debunked argument, and in the other instance, it's the argument that hasn't been proven. I think that's what you're trying to do. Is that what it is? Because gravity obviously hasn't been proven, so it doesn't need to be disproven. So therefore, giving it to them is like whatever. But with the other argument, as far as the radius and all that, that's been established already according to their narrative. So,
but that's not proven.
And debunked.
Yeah, it's not proven either. So that's why I'm like, kind of the same thing. But I don't know.
It is.
Everyone has their own approach. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
it's all bullshit anyway, as far as I see it. So.
But anyway, isn't it surely more embarrassing for them that you have to give them back something you've already debunked?
Oh my gosh. Can we get it clear here?
Well,
I cover 7/6R terrestrial refraction and say you can't have it because you then got the R. And as Chocolate said very precisely there, but even if you want it, it still doesn't work. That's all I'm saying. I'm not giving him anything. My own side thinks I'm giving him a debunked argument again. That's nuts.
It's not. But the guy who just asked you a question, can you repeat your question? Because it was a good question. It's directed at you, 10th Man, because you're the only one who can answer it. Go ahead. Do you want to repeat your question? Is it Jim?
Yeah, basically, it's making them even more embarrassed that you have to give them something that they can't have anyway. It's already debunked. But you're just like, on a theoretical, if you do have this, it still doesn't work. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't very concise.
But... No, I think you're close because I distinguish between the black swan and the radius, and you can't have if you don't have a geometric horizon, you can't have any of it. It's over right there, done, finished. I'm with everyone on that one for sure. Then they want to continue talking. And then that's when they get more embarrassed because they're going to bring up refraction, which is, and kudos to QE, he built the argument for them to bring up refraction. He made them bring it up. And this is where they die again. And that's all I'm saying. Now they're in my my playground, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with them because I'm going to destroy all of refraction based on the R.
Alrighty then.
What are?
That's half an
That's
hour.
right, that R.
That's what I'm saying. What are?
Half an hour on a nuance of one housekeeping question.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Paul.
Any evidence of gravity?
You're roboting.
No.
Did you
Is
hear
there any
any
scientific evidence of gravity?
Oh, we're moving on. See, even the other panel want to move on. Yeah, good question though.
Yes, if there was any scientific evidence of gravity.
Feel free to answer.
For the third
No.
time, no.
No.
But
The
if
only
I
one is
give you
LIGO
gravity-
I'm aware of.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
They can't. Neil deGrasse Tyson came on last night with a video, and he was talking about science is hard. I don't know if anybody caught that. It's about 20 minutes long. It was so embarrassing to listen to him. They don't do the scientific method in astrophysics, all this mathematical equations. Well, I mean, what are you manipulating? A concept?
So science doesn't prove anything.
Yeah, it does. It's all it does.
Pseudoscience doesn't prove anything.
Yeah, what they had was pseudoscience. That didn't prove anything, so they've got to throw an empirical method that only proves things. Its only purpose is to prove a hypothesis. Got to throw that under the bus, right? If you haven't got any. Paul, are you on? Did you want to add something?
Nope, sorry, can't say nothing.
Is it you're causing background noise? I was trying to be subtle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Here,
okay.
I'm trying to mute myself. Sorry.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, because
No,
you'll
sure.
see a 15-degree hour. You'll see a 15-degree hour drift, and you don't get that anywhere.
Any more? Any more for any more? Highly covered topic in the last couple of days. Axial rotation, Coriolis effect, deviation, drift, 15 degrees an hour thereof. No? No comments?
But didn't Bob Nodell prove it?
Has Simon Dunn tried to say anything yet?
Yeah, there's a bit of a conflict there. Got a very strange scenario where the Globers claim a flat earther proved there's 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath the spinning gyro, fibre optic in this example, and there's Dan, who's a globe earther, asserting there's no drift. So the Globers think Bob proved there's drift, and the Glober himself thinks that there isn't any. Very weird. The reality is we're just not spinning. There's no effect to prove we're spinning. There's no 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath an inertial reference frame. That's not happening. So they're left with a bit of a quandary. When we point out it's not happening, there isn't a 15 degrees an hour drift, they tell us, well, we wouldn't expect one, even though I'm claiming that as the proof we spin, because they're idiots.
But what does Sagnat effect got to do with the drift anyway?
What's what got to do with the drift, sorry?
Sagnat effect.
I don't know, you tell me.
Sagnat effect.
Yeah, what about it?
Because
You
that's
tell
all
me.
the gyro does. That's all the gyro does. Sagnat effect.
Sagnat
Okay.
didn't find rotation.
Say again.
But I don't know, is there any actual video of this ring laser gyro? Because all I got was Bob Nodell saying it. Like, I'd like to see actual video,
That's
video
Nodell, not Nodell.
of the thing doing it.
I haven't actually seen that, but it's not really that relevant, as strange as that may sound, and you might think I'm poo-pooing you or fobbing you off. I'm not, and I'll explain why. I take it as read. All right. Bob proved there is a spinning gyro, and gyros don't drift. Yeah, that's the point of a gyro. It spins, and if you've got like a bicycle wheel, so you get a bicycle wheel, take it off your bike, and you spin it on the end of your finger real fast. If you tilt your finger, it'll stay in the same axis. So that's what the gyro's doing. It's in a fixed inertial reference frame. It's just spinning away, not moving. Now, the assertion is that the cage moves around it because it's attached to Earth, and Earth is spinning underneath that fixed frame of that spinning gyro. And the deviation rate between the cage attached to a spinning Earth and the gyro not attached, spinning in its own reference frame, is 15 degrees an hour. That's what is claimed by the globers in respect to what Bob is asserted to have proven. Now, he's not asserting that in the slightest, but that's what they say he's proven. They say Bob proved that the Earth turns underneath that spinning gyro that's not drifting. It's not actual drift. Gyros don't drift. They spin and stay in the same general position. But the cage around it is spun because Earth turned underneath it at 15 degrees an hour. That's what they're saying Bob proved. Okay, I'll accept that. Let's take that as read. So Earth spins underneath. Got any better examples? Yeah, I have. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says that the ball leaves the ground and Earth spins underneath it. It's the same effect. It is called Coriolis effect. And how'd you get Coriolis effect? Well, Coriolis effect is achieved if you're spinning underneath stuff. So the prerequisite condition to have Coriolis is you observing stuff from a platform that's spinning. And they assert we're on a platform that's spinning. Now, anything that we observe seem to drift is only seeming to drift because Earth's turning underneath it. And we're seeing the effect because we're turning with the Earth that turns underneath it. So like the gyro, the cage is turning with a turning Earth at 15 degrees an hour underneath balls and underneath bullets, and you see a not actual drift. In other words, the ball that Neil deGrasse Tyson describes making the field goal isn't actually drifting. You're turning underneath it. Not actual drift, Coriolis effect. Well, if you're turning at 15 degrees an hour, as they claim Bob is supposed to have proven, he hasn't, but let's take it as read. So Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. We have 15 degrees an hour drift. Well, if Earth turns underneath a plane, for me to look at it and go, oh, it looks like it's curving, because I'm turning underneath it to have Coriolis effect, not actual drift. Well, that not actual drift I observe is only being observed because I'm turning underneath the plane. That means Earth's turning underneath aeroplanes. And that would shorten the flight time if you were travelling west. Now, that does not happen. Likewise, you'd push the up stick on a drone on the equator and then let go, so it hovers. But because Earth's claimed to turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour, it would appear that your hovering drone moves away from you at 1,000 miles an hour. Now, you're not powering it away with motors at 1,000 miles an hour. You can't do that. A drone can't speed away at 1,000 miles an hour. And you're not pressing anything on the control surfaces because you've let go of the sticks. So it's hovering. But the claim is that it would disappear from your view at 1,000 miles an hour because you're turning underneath it. 15 degrees an hour translatable to 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. That's Coriolis effect. Like you on a roundabout, looking at something not attached, seeming to come towards you because you're spinning underneath it. A lamppost that you're underneath seems to come towards you and then go away. That's Coriolis effect. They claim the same effect is had on Earth, and things that aren't attached drift at 15 degrees. Well, that would shorten flight times, and you'd have drones drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour. Hot air balloons would be landing in different countries when they've gone up on a nice, clear day. So it's easy to debunk this assertion we have Coriolis effect, because that effect is necessitated by Earth turning underneath stuff, and you observing stuff while you turn underneath it. That's what Coriolis effect is. You observe it if you're on a roundabout. If you're on a roundabout that's turning, and you'd observe it on a turning Earth if you were on an Earth that's turning, and you were turning with it, watching stuff drift that isn't on it, like balls and bullets, as they claim, and drones, and helicopters, and hot air balloons, and aeroplanes, shortening their flight times as Earth turns underneath, with you attached looking at it seem to drift. Coriolis effect. Anyone
So
want
what
to
I
add
get
anything?
is that if we're on a spinning Earth then everything we see should be deviating.
That's
but
correct.
It's not.
Everything not attached.
Right. So if I'm playing ball with my son, I should see an apparent drift because I'm spinning, correct?
Correct. If you jump up and down, you should see apparent deflection at 15 degrees an hour, translatable to 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. That's correct. That's Coriolis drift. Same as a roundabout. Anything that's not attached to you spinning on a roundabout will seem like it's coming towards you. It's not. You're spinning. So that effect is not actual. It's you spinning underneath that gives you Coriolis effect. But that involves you spinning on the roundabout or you spinning on Earth, looking at stuff not attached to Earth to give you that effect of 15 degrees an hour deviation, as they claim, proves Earth spins. Now, when we get to the point with the fundies that we say, you're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour drift and nothing's drifting, they go, we wouldn't expect to see drift. Like, well, you wouldn't expect to have anything proving Earth spins then, other than an assumption that flies in the face of having multiple directions of surface winds. You can't have Earth and atmosphere travelling as one and have any wind, because it's all travelling together. Well, no, you don't have that. That's nonsense, and doesn't give you 15 degrees an hour like asserted by Tyson. So you're supposed to have drift, you don't have any, and a rebuttal isn't to say, we don't have drift, when you're supposed to have drift. Any more on drift? As I say, it's been a hot topic the last few days.
Well, can I sum up what I think I hear you saying, Nathan? If this Coriolis effect or this drift or whatever happening in one thing, it should happen in more than one place. It should happen all over the place, right?
If Earth's turning underneath a football, like is asserted by Tyson, and if Earth is turning underneath a bullet, as is asserted by fundamentalist zealots, then it's turning underneath hot air balloons, drones, planes, helicopters, you if you jump up and down.
But that's not happening.
No, it's not. Which is probably why they only assert it with things that are in the air for a fraction of a second, like a bullet, or a second or two, like a ball. Because as soon as you translate that into a ball that's in the air permanently, like an aeroplane, you'd see massive amounts of drift. Flight times would be reduced. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA would take an hour and a half because Earth's turning underneath it. So that we can go, oh, look, it looks like it's drifting. It's not. And the plane wouldn't account for it because it's not an actual effect. Likewise, if you're on a roundabout looking at a lamppost, the lamppost doesn't have to concern itself with you seeing the lamppost seem to come towards you as you spin underneath it. And likewise, if you're spinning underneath something on a claim to be spinning Earth, the thing you're observing seem to drift doesn't concern itself with your apparent observation of something not occurring. Not actual deflection, just you turning underneath an aeroplane. And that would shorten flight times, and that doesn't happen. And that would have drones drifting away from you at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, and that does not happen. The concise summary of the argument is Coriolis effect, which is their assertion with 15 degrees an hour, involves you turning underneath stuff, observing it drifting. Coriolis is only ever you on a turning platform. Now they claim you are on a turning Earth, and the drift you see is stuff that isn't turning with you. That's the only way you get drift. Something that isn't attached to the turning reference frame that you look at it from, seeming to drift. The reason it's seeming to drift, like with the drone, is because you push your up stick and it hovers, and then it's not powering away from you. That would be actual deflection. No, it's just seeming to drift away from you. And if you were on an enormous roundabout and you did the same thing, you pushed up on your drone stick and the drone lifts off the roundabout and hovers above it, as you rotate underneath it hovering, you're going to come towards the drone and then go away from it, and then come towards it and go away from it. It's just hovering. But that's what they claim would happen on Earth. The drone takes off and Earth carries on turning under it. That doesn't happen. Simple. We don't have any 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath stuff not attached. It's preposterous. There's no Coriolis effect on a turning Earth. And when we point that out, they say we wouldn't expect to see drift. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I wanted one last comment. Rompa said yesterday that you don't need 2 reference frames for Coriolis.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was wondering why you would say that.
Because he's stupid.
No, because he hasn't got 2 reference frames. There isn't any drift. So the justification for why there isn't 15 degrees an hour is we've only got 1 reference frame. We wouldn't expect to see this claimed 15 degrees an hour deviation to prove we're spinning. We wouldn't expect to see that proof of Earth spin. That's their rebuttal.
Oh, he's trying to figure out how they can make the Earth spin without spinning. And they do it by Coriolis, basically saying that it can still spin without it spinning. Effectively.
Is that like saying abracadabra, and it just makes everything work?
Yeah.
Coriolis. Figure out what the problem is.
How peanut butter jelly
Figure out what the problem is.
A lot of peanut butter sandwiches.
They think inertial frame means force. That's their problem.
Their problem is doublespeak. We do. We don't, we don't.
Why would they think one frame is a problem? Apparently, our reference frames have been ruined.
They're not ours. Yeah, they're not ours. We don't make no claims with reference frames. So when Simon Dan says, you and your reference frames are destroyed, he's talking to you, Globers. The ones that think Bob proved 15 degrees an hour drift. The 2 reference frames you use for this Coriolis assertion of Earth turning underneath, stuff not attached. That's Coriolis drift. Well, Dan says those reference frames used in that example of drift at 15 degrees an hour, they're ruined. You and your reference frames are ruined, globe heads. That's Simon Dan's comment. I'll just repeat it verbatim. You and your reference frames are ruined. End quote, Simon Dan. And whose reference frames? Well, there's only one person here asserting reference frames, and that's someone with a globe claim. So, anyone with a globe claim? You and your reference frames are ruined, says Simon Dan. No drift. Thanks, Dan. No drift.
You don't understand what he was trying to say.
On Coriolis, there are actually a bunch of videos on YouTube with guys testing out rifles and stuff. And some of them actually shooting 50 caliber bullets directly up in the air, and then they run around and hide under the car. They wait about, 30 to 40, maybe a couple of minutes, 30, 40 seconds, maybe a minute. I don't remember how long they waited for the bullet to land down. But bullet lands right next to them after flying into the air for, I think it was more than a minute. So right then and there, you can pose a question to the likes of Neil deGrasse Tyson. Where is Coriolis now? Biatch.
Well, the Earth rotation on their model, which isn't true, is 460 meters per second, or translated into feet, over 1,550 feet. So 1,550 feet, it should be away in 1 second's time.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I remember one of those physicists that, I don't remember what's his name, the mental dude, elderly. You guys talked about him a few months ago.
Hillbilly Blue Balls.
He was talking. He was asked about artillery fire, and he proceeded to calculate how the artillery has to lead their target like 20 miles or 40 miles, and then he stopped himself to realizing that, oh hell, I don't think that's actually possible, and then he proceeded to deny it anyways. That was hilarious.
As I say, if they want to assert that Earth turns underneath munitions, then I'm more than happy to say, okay, I'll take your assertion as read. Earth turns underneath a bullet. The sniper's got to account for the fact that when it leaves Earth, the Earth continues to turn underneath the bullet. Well, if Earth turns underneath a bullet after it's left the gun for us to observe it seeming to drift, because we're looking at it while still turning, then I'd look at a plane and it would seem to drift as I'm still turning after it leaves Earth. Well, that doesn't happen. So if you're going to account for it in a bullet, you'd have to account for it in a plane, because I'm looking up at that plane, watching it seem to drift. Well, that means Earth's turning underneath it, for me to observe it seem to drift, like you're observing this bullet seem to drift. Well, we don't. We don't observe that effect. Useful that your example's only in the air for a couple of seconds, and is annihilated by something in the air for hours at a time. Because that would shorten flight times. Charlotte, North Carolina to LA would be an hour and a half instead of 4 hours. It isn't, because we don't have Earth turning underneath for us to have this not actual effect observed as we turn underneath stuff to give us the effect. We're not turning underneath anything. We're not turning.
Yeah, the usual rebut, stupidest rebut I've ever heard, I'm given when mentioning the airplanes and helicopters. People say, oh, they're guided by pilots, right? And you spend the next 15 minutes trying to explain, no, you're thinking of like lateral movement. Think about along the equator. And they just, some of them actually realize it, and some that, no, they pilot it. They're not realizing that it doesn't really matter you piloting or not. Flying along the equator for one way or the other, right? It doesn't matter if it's a bullet or a plane. It's you go into the same direction. The arguments you get from these people are unbelievable. And one of those people, like my relative, I'm like, dude, come on, wake up.
Coriolis is only ever observed as you rotate underneath something. That's how the effect is observed. So to have Coriolis, their claim of deviation at 15 degrees an hour, you've got to be observing something from a spinning platform. Now that has absolutely nothing to do with the plane and its path. The plane could literally be doing Red Bull loop-de-loops in the sky. Yep. Coriolis effect, let's take it away from Earth for a second. Let's have this example, same example. You've got the Red Bull team doing loop-de-loops in the sky. And you happen to be sat on a child's roundabout. Yep. Now what happens as you spin on the roundabout? Those planes doing their manoeuvres and doing a display over there in the west somewhere. You travel towards them, and then as you whip round on the roundabout, suddenly you're going away from them. And that effect is Coriolis. It looks like the acrobatic display in the sky over there suddenly is coming closer and closer, and then it disappears as you turn left on the roundabout. Well, that's not actual deflection. They're not actually deviating. Does it matter that they're doing loop-de-loops as you turn underneath them to see this not actual deviation? Because they're not actually deviating. You're just turning underneath them. Now let's translate the exact same thing to their claim that Earth spins. Same exact acrobatic display in the sky. But now Earth is turning underneath that acrobatic display. It doesn't matter what the display's doing, because what I'm now going to be observing, according to their claim, is me attached to a spinning Earth, getting closer and closer and closer to the display. Well, that means Earth's turning underneath the display. Who cares? They're not going to get a walkie-talkie command from someone saying, by the way, someone on the ground watching you is looking at you and it seems like you're drifting. They're going to go, oh, it doesn't make any difference to us. We're just doing our loop-de-loops. Doesn't matter what they observe, not actually happening. Coriolises are not actual drift. So when people say, well, the plane would account for that. Account for what? Not actual deflection. You seeing it seem to drift as you turn underneath it. No, you don't have to account for that. It's a not actual deflection. It's just you turning underneath something according to your claim. Now, when we point that out, that Coriolis involves Earth turning underneath stuff and you observing it as you're attached, turning underneath it, they say, we wouldn't expect to see the deflection as we turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour. And you go, well, what on earth have you got to prove we're spinning then? Because 15 degrees an hour is your claim that's supposed to prove we spin. This deflection. Oh, we don't have that. We wouldn't expect it. We wouldn't expect 15 degrees an hour to prove we're spinning because we've got 2 reference frames. We've only got 1. Well, you've got no proof of Earth spin then. None. That's where we go with this conversation, and it's now come to a head. It's now been boiled down to 2 poisons. Poison number 1. We've got Coriolis deviation. Earth turns underneath snipers, bullets, and footballs. Oh, really? Well, it would also turn under drones, helicopters, and aeroplanes. reducing flight times and watching your drone seem to drift away from you 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. That doesn't happen. So no, we don't have 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath, giving us Coriolis deflection. Apparent deviation from the ground as we turn underneath stuff. That does not happen. So death by lack of drift. Or tell us outright, we don't have drift, like Simon Dan did, and see how that works out. No drift, you say? No 15 degrees an hour deviation to prove Earth spins? Welcome to Flat Earth. So pick your poison, fundies. Just tell us there's no drift, so we can agree with you, and then laugh when you beg the question of it spinning together, with no demonstrable proof of that assertion, just a begging the question fallacy. Yeah, we'll all laugh at that poison that you've strung, with no deflection, and point out you're supposed to have drift. Or tell us you've got drift, and we'll point out that that would shorten flight times as the Earth turns underneath, with us observing stuff seem to drift. Because we don't.
Maybe Coriolis
the seeming
is selective. You know, like some people have selective hearing.
Yeah, some people just ignore it. Go on, Rebel.
Yeah, the seeming contradictions arise every time you corner them. They're moving the goalpost. For the example that you brought up, example of Coriolis. As soon as you debunk Coriolis, with their concession, they will tell you that we don't expect to see the Coriolis, to say everything moves, there's only one reference, right? They back down, they're moving the goalpost. Just recently, Eric Dubay's video came out talking about this NASA employee, I think Cheryl, the spokesperson. Sweet, nice lady who I'm sure has no idea what she's talking about, just parroting the nonsense that every other global parrots, attempts to debunk the flat Earth, bringing up the example of Aristophanes. You know, measuring the sticks and shadows and the well and the sun and Syene and Alexandria, where her own priest, DeGrace Tyson, debunked that very notion on TV with his own mouth. Yet she's parroting. I mean, you see what I'm saying? As soon as you corner the DeGrace Tyson, he will back down and move the goalpost. You corner the Cheryl, they will deny that they ever made the claim, and they say, well, it doesn't prove it, but we have tons of other proofs, thousands. You don't expect to see Coriolis, but there's thousands others. Proofs.
Yeah, they're changing it. They used to say that you do expect to see Coriolis. Snipers have to account for the Coriolis.
Indeed, you cut off, mate, but yes. They're changing their story.
Yeah, and now they're saying, like they used to say, snipers have to account for the... Well, then that would mean aeroplane flights, destinations would constantly be changing. So they'd constantly be having to redirect their location. Their destination is always moving.
Most of the time, the
but that doesn't
Coriolis,
so,
for most people, was as fucked up as mine was when I first heard the term Coriolis. It was always attributed to hurricanes revolving in different directions in the different hemispheres before I realized what the whole thing was about in terms of flat Earth. That's my degree of exposure to the term Coriolis was.
Because that's
I never stopped to think about
roundabout.
What Coriolis actually is, right? And when you realize what Coriolis effect actually is, it has nothing to do with the rotation of the hurricanes.
No.
Because rotations of the hurricanes is actually a physical phenomenon. They rotate. What Coriolis is an apparent deflection, right? Things don't actually do what you think they're doing. It's you moving. It's relative motion.
Exactly.
You think the hurricanes are moving? No, dummy, it's you. And therefore, the statement about Coriolis effect affecting weather on different quote-unquote hemispheres is as ridiculous as saying football traveling over the football field is affected by Coriolis. Therefore, that's how the team was able to score the goal. I mean, this shit is so fucked up. You have to spend weeks to unwash the brains of the people. I was among them many years ago. Now we're like black belts.
Yeah, if the
right?
Earth was spinning, it wouldn't be Coriolis.
For us, it's very simple, right? Once you understand, once you see it, it's so simple. And I feel dumb, right? Once you realize it, I feel embarrassed. I couldn't believe I bought this. I never even began to question it back then. Now I realize how dumb this is, right? But it takes years. Most people here are black belts, right? But try to explain that to other people from our perspective it's very difficult.
Indeed it is. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Jump in here.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Now back to you, tent man. I'm on your side.
No, we're done with it. Let's not. So I'm content.
Jolly good.
I just break your chops every now and then.
Well, as long as it's pork chops, I'm okay.
Good show.
Yeah, very good. This whole Coriolis thing is so simple. They claim the Earth is turning, and like you said, if it does under a football and a bullet, then anything not attached to it, it should do it there. It doesn't. Then I thought about World War II and all the bombings before the precision laser-guided missiles were there to be, strategic and hit the targets only. As you watch those old clips, the bombers would have to train on a moving plane at a certain speed, dropping these types of ordnances that weighed this much, and what the air or the weather was during that time, in order to hit one specific manufacturing plant, say in Germany. And they would drop thousands of bombs, and their ratios were so small, the collateral damage was so big, but they had to do it just to get that one munitions plant. So when you say, well, what was happening there actually? Well, you're a moving plane dropping something. Now think about that, and what that gives you is, visions in your mind. If we were a moving Earth, right, everything that leaves it should be drifting, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't like using anything that's got any kind of propaganda attached to it. And this definitely has. Same goes for the Sea Sparrow.
Well, it's just that attention.
Actually, that's a very good point you bring up. That's a very good point, because most of the raids were done at night, and they had no navigational systems, as you correctly pointed out. So they would fly at night for hours, and judging only by the time, they would estimate that they over the target, because they've calculated the fuel, the speed, the windage, right? And they would drop the ordnance. If Earth spinned underneath, man,
right?
That's hilarious. Just stop and think about it.
Bombs. If the Earth was spinning underneath these planes, how are they landing on runways that are moving?
They couldn't.
How are they even landing?
They couldn't. That was one of my first sort of in-depth videos. It was Rory Cooper, My Perspective. He just detailed it. He did it with really exceptional graphics as well, showing exactly that. If Earth's turning underneath, how the hell does a plane land?
I remember watching all of those. He's good. He did good stuff.
Well, the pilot accounts for Coriolis.
That made me think right back to when I used to work at an airport. which I worked at for almost a decade, where I would actually be on the ground waiting for these planes to land, and they would call in, clear the land about either between 10, 20 miles away, or whatever it was, and you could see them lining up because they would have a specific runway designated to them that day, and they would line up, and you could see, especially at night, because I worked the night shift also, and you could see these planes lined up in the air for miles and miles and miles in a straight line, and they would all come in one by one, landing on the whatever runway was designated for that day, and you just never see any type of deviation. They just line up straight and just land.
Whatever.
They
Yeah,
say the
they would land,
atmosphere is
but
moving
every
together.
landing would have been, those videos of planes landing in the Hong Kong International Airport during the storms. The barely getting the planes on the ground. They essentially almost flying sideways.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the footage, but it's terrifying.
Crosswind landing.
Exactly. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever to you, John.
Have you had breakfast?
Hey, hold on a couple seconds before we move on. I want to apologize to 10th for coming in hot yesterday. I was out of line, so I just want to tell him that. Even though he's still wrong, I want to apologize for being hot yesterday.
Accepted.
Good.
Excellent. Oh, well, that's good. That's changed the mood. But this is kind of whatever, because the flight times should be reduced. Forget about the landing. The reason it never gets brought up by us or by me is because it's totally superfluous to requirements. If Earth's turning underneath, the flight time would be reduced.
Absolutely.
Can I add something here?
Whatever.
If QE would have heard how 10th Man was talking about him earlier, he wouldn't have apologized.
I got just such a stir.
Bastard.
Damn, Rocky.
You might want to listen to the earlier.
Shots fired.
Yeah,
It was
you
broadcast. He did hear. He gave us colour commentary in Skype.
He called you names I had never even heard of.
Rocky, you're rocking the boat, huh?
Friendly fire.
I thought that was
friendly
I thought it was a compliment calling him a master stag.
Yeah, imagine. I had to look up stag. Thought it was slang for cool guy, but it wasn't.
Stag in Louisiana, for crying out loud.
No, but you got people like Blue Marble, who claims to be a pilot, which he might be. A couple others in that group, that say they're not only pilots, but they're adjusting for Coriolis as they fly, and they're telling people what instruments they're using to do this, and that's just that's just so far from the truth. It's deceptive, right? There is no instrument, there is no correction. The only thing they're correcting for is wind drift, and on any type of fluid like a waterway or something like that, you would adjust for wind drift and for tide and currents. So that's the 2 or 3 separate drifts on a liquid you would adjust for. But no object spinning underneath an airplane you're not correcting for that ever.
Well, that's the comedy assertion, isn't it? Ground control to flight 474. There is a child on a roundabout watching you seem to drift. Please correct your trajectory immediately.
I jokingly, seriously, we flew into Gulf Shores after the hurricane the other day, and we jokingly, me and my brother, jokingly called into the tower because we know them personally. It's a small, kind of a semi-private airport. They know us, we know them. It's not a metropolitan airport, and we were like, "Yes, sir. How much Coriolis can we expect to experience on a eastbound trajectory here into runway 29er?" What type of
troll
you
level
should have
boss.
heard you should have heard the dead silence, right? And these are definitely immediate responses. If you ask them about wind or whatever, it's immediate response. Yeah, Tiger 1315. I won't give my I won't give my number away, but they'll come back with an immediate response to you on every question you have until you ask them about Coriolis, right? So I can't believe they're saying it on recorded shows that they actually Blue Marble goes as far to say as he was a flight instructor at one time and would teach his students on this. And I asked him what day, what day of the class would you teach about Coriolis? And he said the second day. I don't know if he was just BSing or not. I know he's BSing because he doesn't teach it, right? There is no teaching it. There is no class.
How do you
There's
teach
no
Coriolis?
Yeah, that's a good question, Neil. I was gonna leave it because I couldn't work it into a joke. But when you're asking ground control, how much Coriolis effect? Well, the ground control could observe the plane that you're flying in seem to drift from the ground as they rotate underneath. That's where the observation would originate. The ground crew attached to the spinning reference frame. So in actuality, the answer to your question is how much should you account for? Well, none. The only thing you'd have to worry about is Earth turning underneath you, because you can't experience Coriolis from the projectile. You're not on a turning reference frame observing something not attached. So how much should you account for? None. None in terms of Coriolis deviation and not actual drift. But how much is Earth turning underneath me? That would be a more accurate question. But that kind of ruins your joke and the comedic effect. But Neil's right. How much? What's your Coriolis gauge going to account for? The not actual drift someone's observing from the ground? It's a ludicrous notion to say you can account for Coriolis in a plane. The only thing you'd have to account for is the thing that causes Coriolis, and that's Earth turning under the plane.
You can't account for a visual effect.
Exactly.
Can I point something out? Going back to hurricanes, right? When the Globers talk about hurricanes and Coriolis, the even bigger problem, bigger elephant in the room is even given the globe and the spin, the Coriolis wouldn't affect the hurricanes anyways. That's how ludicrous the notion is.
Yeah, you pointed that on the live show and you were absolutely spot on. Yeah, the hurricanes have actual spin directions. So, because you've summarised it so beautifully, I'll go straight on to the example that you could use with hurricanes. Like in Twister. Has anyone seen Twister where the cow goes round the car? Round and round the cow goes? Well, the cow is caught up in a twister. Now, translate that upscale it, and you're now in Dorothy's house, right? Spinning around in the hurricane, yeah? Well, if you're spinning around on a hurricane, and you look down at the ground at a fire hydrant that's cemented into the ground, well then as you spin in the hurricane, the fire hydrant looks like it's coming towards you, and then you're going away from it. Oh, it looks like it's coming towards you again, and then you're going away from it. Well, that effect of the fire hydrant that's fixed to the ground seeming to come towards you as you spin in the hurricane.
No kits.
That's Coriolis.
We got a whole pallet of kits that just got.
Hey, Chocolate, your mic's on.
Oh, shit, my bad.
Al, whatever.
What I heard was...
I thought he had something there.
I heard his trafficking information. He's just told about the pallet of kids that's just arrived.
I thought he said he had a whole pallet of kids that could go
whole
to
pallet
a
of kids
and going around about.
You guys.
Hey, shove that pallet where the sun doesn't shine.
How much per pound? Let's haggle.
That's child trafficking.
But Nathan, as you were saying that, you could just go to an amusement park and go on one of them spinning rides, and you could see it. Things coming towards you and away from you, towards you and away from you.
Yeah, better quick.
But
There's a plane flying over Neil.
That ride wouldn't change its direction.
Yeah, well,
just because you're on the other so-called hemisphere. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to spin clockwise or counterclockwise depending on which hemisphere you're at. That's how ridiculous
do me a favor and do what I did. Ask Globers, right? If the hurricanes are due to Coriolis, their rotation are due to Coriolis, are the hurricane winds actually moving straight or are they rotating?
You get Kosho.
Because I want to hear how many people will actually say hurricane winds are 100% moving straight, like Kosho does.
No, don't forget, they got to be standing still too. They got to be either moving straight or standing still. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Just not turning, because the deflection, the curve that's described in Coriolis deviation, that curve that's being observed because you're spinning underneath something, isn't an actual curve. Yeah? It seems to curve, because you're turning underneath it. So that seems to bit is lost on globe heads. It's seeming to spin round in a circle, is it, this hurricane? No, it's actually spinning in a circle. It's not you turning underneath it and going, oh, look, it looks like it's turning. No, that's not what's happening. Literally, hurricanes have nothing to do with Coriolis deviation observed from a turning Earth. It's ludicrous.
Nathan, question for you. You know how you sometimes address the clown show of Sam and Dan and Thunderfoot? There's other two channels you may be familiar with. They're very popular. One of them is Smarter Every Day, and another one is Veritasium. And these two dudes, about 2-3 years ago, maybe, they did a show. One of them was in Australia, another one was in North America. You've seen that? Yeah, so they filled up the tubs with the water to prove Coriolis.
Yeah. I tried to provoke Veritasium. He's too big, man. He ain't gonna do anything.
I've had a poke at Smarter Every Day as well, as has Jaren, and it didn't work out well for Jaren. So Jaren took a snip, attacked it, absolutely without question, fair use, and Smarter Every Day took the video down and contacted Jaren and said, yeah, better luck next time, or nice try, I think were his exact words. Nice try to use my material. And it's like, fair use. But no. It stood and Jaren got the strike for it. So Smarter Every Day, total scum.
Yeah. Typical ball-tard.
Oh.
Like McMoron. He's the next one. Hey, McMoron, I'm coming after you. You get your ass in that flat earth arena in 24/7, son. 1v1, me and you fat ass.
Who's
I'm
McMoron?
gonna tear you up.
Who's McMoron?
Who are you talking about?
MC Toon. McMoron.
Speaking of Coriolis, the aircraft carrier, Paul's here he should help here. So the only thing that moves when the aircraft carrier is at sea is the aircraft carrier, and the plane is moving above it. So they're both moving, and the plane has to land on the moving target. Now, the considerations they take for that with the resting cables and the practice and the speed of which they have to land, I believe it's 150 miles an hour, and the aircraft carrier could be going 15, 20 miles an hour. They also have to have enough speed in case something goes wrong. They could take off again and retry the landing. Now, none of those considerations are ever in the pilot's mind when he's landing on an airport on Earth. None.
Well, not only that, if you're taking Coriolis into consideration, you would have to, in the example of the carrier, know its position in terms of direction, whether the carrier faces north or south or equator or southwest, southeast. This is ridiculous.
Well, I'm not.
I mean, the carrier could be in any given position, right? It's not like an airport bolted to the ground, right? Asphalted to the ground. Carrier is a moving target.
Right. I'm not addressing Coriolis. I'm just saying how a moving plane has to land on a moving target and all the precautions and practice they need for that. And none of that is ever done by a normal pilot on an airport that's on terra firma. But supposedly, the terra firma is moving faster than the boat, the ship is on the water.
and us on the ground, like when I worked at an airport, never had to make any adjustments for that. As we're seeing, or supposed to be seeing these planes apparently deviating. Well, I watched planes land on the same runway or the same group of runways for almost a decade. Never seen any apparent deviation ever.
Nathan, I posted something in Master B. Can you read it?
You want me personally to read?
Yeah, in Coriolis.
Okay. Let's have a look. No, because the text is too small, but I can stick it up on screen if someone else is willing to read it. On screen if someone else can read it out. It's just way too small for me to read. Anybody willing to read out?
Yeah, I can read it. Coriolis effect on an elliptical illusion. The difference between the derivations of the Coriolis effect on the rotating turntable and on the rotating Earth is discussed. The Coriolis effect isn't a force so much as an optical illusion brought about because we forget that we, too, are spinning with the ground beneath our feet.
Perfect.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Their claim is the ground beneath, everything not attached, spins, and because it spins, you observe things as you spin with it, seem to drift. That's their claim. 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth rotates underneath an inertial reference frame. That's what Coriolis effect is. That's what their claim of 15 degrees an hour drift is. That's what Simon Dan's saying they haven't got. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to, first and foremost, both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And again, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!